Hello guys, welcome back. So in this series we are discussing the OpenTofu, right, which is a kind of alternate of your Terraform. Now Terraform is, that we have already discussed it. It is a license based, right? It is no more open source. So we have this replacement available, or maybe the alternate OpenTofu, which is again the initiative from the Hasicop or maybe the community. You can explore this, right, which is kind of almost similar with the Terraform. If you are well aware with the Terraform, then there is no difficulty to understand this OpenTofu, right? But I'm just discussing this from the basics, right? Just I'm considering like, we all are learning here, right? So probably we'll see. So far what we have done is, let me go back to our documentation where we have discussed the IASC tool, right? What is the infrastructure as a code, how it will help us, what all tools are available in the market, right? And we have just tried to categorize those basis upon their nature, right? Like we have the Ansible Puppet, which we mostly consider as a config management tool. Then we have the template where we have the Docker, Packer, Vagrant, right? These which will help you to kind of creating a custom template for our image or maybe the application, right? Then we have this provisioning tool, right? So under this we have we can see that OpenTofu is mentioned under the provisioning tool, right? Apart from that, we have the Terraform, we have the CloudFormation, and there are maybe other tool as well already, right? So OpenTofu is a very wide tool, right? It is supporting a very wide range of the provider, or maybe the basics, or maybe the advanced, or maybe the good or big platform as well, right? Like VMware, AWS, Azure, GCP, all these are supported by the OpenTofu, right? We have seen that, okay, how you can install this OpenTofu. We have tried on the Windows as well, and we have tried on the Linux as well, right? But within this series going forward, what we do is we will keep this in Windows only, right? Because we are using an additional tool. We have the VS Code, we have the Git Bash, right? Because what we will do is whatever that code or maybe the file, right? We will write, or we will see with the example within this series, right? We will keep on these on the GitHub, right? I have already created that GitHub. Let me show you. So this is our GitHub repository, which was already pushed, right? And this is something you can see. uh, this is the URL, right? This URL I will put in our description of this video so that you can clone it whenever you need, right? So at the end of every video, whatever we are going to discuss, right, that thing we will push in our same repo, right? So that we can keep a track, and if you are following with me, then you guys are also do the same thing, right? Let me do one thing. Let me show you this git ignore file, right? So git ignore is something here you can see that what I have done is I have keep these four names here, right? So if you are aware about the git, right? So git ignore is something that I want git to be ignored some file, right? So that it will not keep a track of those file. It will not ask us to push those file, or if whenever it is modified, so it will not flag those file as a modified file or something, right? So I have put all these files. The reason why I have put all these files, maybe we will discuss in the further video, but let me just give you a brief introduction. So TF state is something that which will keep a track of the your infra, right? Or your object which you are managing with the OpenTofu, right? So what it will do, it will just check that whenever you are running that tofu apply command against your .tf extension file, it will read that file and it will read that state file, because it is also keeping a track, right? Then only it will just get to know, okay, this is the declared state and this is the desired state, right? If there is any changes in that particular state file, so before applying to that new changes, what it will do is it will create a dot backup file, right? Whenever you want to restore or maybe you want to write, so there is a good chance that you can restore your thing. And this is something that the Terraform is whenever you are running your Terraform apply, right? So it will kind of like it is going to create a lock file, so that at the same time another engineer will not do something with that TF file, right? So that is also a good thing. And .terraform is a directory where it will keep a track, or it will gonna download the all the providers plugin which we want in our file, right? So that's what. So going forward, we will see in this main funda, right? Like what exactly this TF state. But let me tell you, it is not a good practice also. Now you will say, okay, this is good thing, right? Like if you want to keep a track of our file, so it is good, like we can push it to GitHub, right? No, guys. Whenever you are changing and something, right? If you don't want to change or something, so every time that the time stamp or something, it will gonna change, right? In these files, and Git will flag those file as a modified file. So it is kind of irritating, or it is not a good idea, right? Or it is unnecessary overhead of your administrator or your engineer, right? Like you need to push. So there is a different best practices to keep these files safe. If somehow you lost your file or delete some file by mistake, then how you can recover it, right? So we will discuss those as well. But as of now, just to keep it simple, what I did is I just put these file as a ignore file, right? So let me back to my notepad now. So yeah, that was the reason, like we were using a VS Code and the Git bash, right? So in the last video, I think we have discussed this that the kind of format, right? The structure of your file, right? First, you are putting that first block as a resource block, right? Because we have different block, resource, data provider, and other, which we'll see. But as of now, we will see only the resource. Under resource, I am defining one of the provider, which is a local provider, local file, right? And under this I am defining a resource, which is a logical name, right? You can give any name of that particular thing, right? So that is something that we can keep a track of your this one. Because if you don't keep it like this way, right, so what it will happen is it will uh, it will come to know that, okay, which resource or which object you are talking about, right? So that is why that this is the logical name is very very mandatory, and each provider will support some arguments, and under arguments some are optional and some are mandatory, right? We have seen in the last video for the local file, we have the file name is mandatory argument and the content, and there are other arguments as well which were optional. So we just use the file name and the content, right? And this is the way that you can define. So here you can see resource is nothing, it is just the block I am starting. This is the provider, and this is the logical name of my resource. And under this provider, we have the file name, which is the mandatory field. I have defined some path where I want to create my file, and this is the content I just want to put it, right? Then we have seen that the four magic steps of our Terraform. One is the init, which will gonna initialize your uh, directory, right? So under init, what it will do is it will gonna read that .tf extension file. Whatever the provider you are going to use, it will download those provider, right? So that it will run, or it will just do the job which you want to perform here, right? Then the plan is like kind of a row run, right? It will not give you a addition or actual implementation. It will just give you idea, okay, if you want to, or if you will run that particular file, so what all changes will be happening. So it is just a kind of plan, right? It will not do actual implementation done when you do tofu apply, right? Which will prompt you for the confirmation as well, whether you want to go or no, yes or no, right? And the destroy, the name itself, it's explaining destroy is something like you want to delete something, you want to destroy something, right? So we have seen that, okay, when you run the tofu in it, what it is doing is it is just reading the all file under the end with the .tf extension, right? What we have these file is these files, we can see this, we have something called main.tf, we have something called variable.tf, we have something called output.tf, we have something called provider.tf, we have opentofu.tf, right? So these are the file, right? So let me explain you in one liner what all these file. Main file is something like which contain a resource definition, right? Like if you want to include some other file, or maybe if you, because there is no limit, right? In the same file you can define multiple providers, right? But there are way, there are is a structured way, right? there is a, you can define your module, right? How you can create your custom module, how you can create your use up existing module, right? And then you can use only one main.tf file which will include the other .tf file, right? We'll see going forward. But as of now, just understand main.tf is something resource definition, right? And the variable definition is like whatever the variables you are using, right? You can declare those variable, right? These are the declare. And the output is like output from resource. Let's say you are creating a EC2 instance on the AWS, right? And if you want to email that IP address of that particular EC2 instance or some other metadata, what you can do is you can just get those output in file and you can use that file as a input file and you can share those information to the required person. Provider is again the provider definition. Now you will say, okay, why we have that dedicated file for the provider.tf. See guys, when you use a local file, right, so what OpenTofu will do is OpenTofu will gonna download a latest version of that particular provider, right? But there are chances, right? Maybe there is a bug in that particular plugin version, right? Or maybe there is a thing you have defined your custom template, and that custom template is maybe not supporting your particular version, right? You want to use version constraint, right? Like you want to use some limited or maybe some dedicated, or you have in your mind, okay, I just want to use particular 2.3 version, right? For let's say AWS, or let's say for local file, right? So that information you can define in the provider dot uh, tf file. Okay, maybe we can ignore all these typos. OpenTofu is something like which you can define the behavior, right? You want that, okay, my OpenTofu is behave like that, right? You can define the behavior. You want to use explicitly, implicitly, you want to want because but let me give you one small example here. Default behavior of the OpenTofu is explicit, right? Like what it will do whenever you are changing something. So what it will do is first it will gonna destroy that particular resource and then it will create a new resource, right? But you don't want that. Maybe some reason, right? Maybe you think that, okay, if it will gonna destroy my, let's say you have that two-tier application. One is the application and one is the DB server, right? So what you want is, because you want first delete to be DB data and then you want to delete the application and then you want to create first DB and then the application server, right? So same way, default behavior will delete those server and then it will recreate, right? But I can change this behavior, right? What implicitly I will say, okay boss, don't delete those first create my another resource, and once the creation is successful, right, everything is done, DB is up and running, application is also able to connect to DB and that is also responding good, then go and delete my resources, right? So that kind of behavior you can define here, right? So in today's video, we will see that variable, right? Because as of now, what we have seen, right? We have seen that, okay, maybe variable we will see, but let's take it this main.tf, because as I mentioned, what we can do is we can have this multiple provider in the same file, right? So let me check this out. Okay, so what I will do is I will create a new file here. I will just name it multi provider.tf. Fine, we have this file. I will just copy the same content from the our first file and I will just say here file 2 and I will say multi underscore file.txt and welcome to Path for Cloud. We are learning multi providers. Fine. Let me save it. Let's see if we have this file is good. So first I will just run the same thing, right? So I have this command OpenTofu init, the first magic command, right? Uh, okay, it is only tofu, right? Sorry. OpenTofu init. So tofu init. Here you can see, right? It is initializing the backend. What exactly it is doing is it is downloading these plugin, right? It is the OpenTofu is successfully initialized. So what exactly it has done? It has done this dot terraform. See guys, that was the reason I was using that git ignore file, right? Because if we are tracking this file, right? So every time it will gonna change and git will raise it. Okay, it has changed, right? And I don't want that. But let me explain one more thing I just noticed, then probably we'll see the next stuff. Yes, this one, let me take it, or maybe go back to our notepad. See, whenever you are doing your this one, right? So what exactly it is doing is we have something called registry.opentofu.org, right? And then we have the uh, provider name, right? Like what provider? So in this case, we have this HashiCorp, right? And then we have this plugin name called local. And under local, we have the version is 2.5.3. So just understand this, guy. See here, what I'm saying is I'm just saying use this resource as a local file, right? So under local, we have this, right? So we have registry called registry.opentofu.org, right? This is the default behavior, right? Like if you have some, because in here what we have seen is OpenTofu is wide, right? It is very wide in range where it is supporting multiple providers or multiple platforms, right? Which you can manage this with this tool as a IAC, right? So by default, whenever you are not mentioning anything, what OpenTofu will do, OpenTofu will search for that provider under this registry, right? Under this registry, what it will do, it will all automatically know, right? We have that AWS. If you do that AWS, so obviously for AWS it is a provider is AWS only, right? And some version is there. But if you have your custom, right? If you have your own registry or if you are own custom, right? Because here we have some verified, right? Which is supported from their vendor itself. We have some community supported, right? We have some community supported as well, and some are maybe I will say partner based, right? So verified is like the official, right? Which is the official one. Partner is something, let's say, which is not the official, but maybe let's say we have that VMware. Let's say we have DigitalOcean, right? So this kind of partner also it is supporting, right? So when you do this, and some are the community supported, let's say we have the AD, right? Microsoft AD, if you want to manage it, yes guys, you can manage the AD as well. This kind of that's stuff, the category we have under this, right? So that is the version. If you see here, what it has done is it has initialized the HashiCorp is the provider and the plugin is local, and this is the version we have downloaded, right? So this is very important to understand. That's why I just highlighted here, right? And this is the version constraint, right? Let's say if you don't want to use this different version, right? Let me show you. I think somewhere we have this, right? Yeah, this one. Let's say I will go to the local only. So you can see HashiCorp local, right? That's what I want to use. And here you can see we have different versions, right? So this version, if you want to use a different, so you need to mention these constraint you can mention in the opentofu.tf file, where you can define the behavior of your sorry, provider.tf, where you can define that version of your provider, which version you want to use, and like that you can mention Terraform, required provider, local, source is this one, and the version if you want a different version, right? So that way you can see, guys, the documentation is very good, right? If you just go and you will see that it is very good, nice, right? So simply you just go and see all these documentation. So here you can see under this we have the file, we have the sensitive file, we have the data sources, we have the functions, right? So we will see going forward. As of now we'll just only focus. Data source is something like which is already there and you want to read, and function is something that which you want to uh, like act upon, right? That is something that you can do it, right? So given a path string will return if the directory exists. The function work only with the directory. If uses a file, the function will return an error, right? Which you just want to check something. And data sources is something, if you see that, which you just want to do uh, like already there and you just want to read something, right? Part of the file will be read, right? It is not managing it, but still if something is there and you just want get some input from there, or you want to see whether that particular thing exists not, then you can use the data sources. And file is something that you want to create, right? You can see will be created. Here the file is will be read, and the directory exist is something will be check whether it's exist or not, right? So that way we can see. Apart from that, we have multiple providers, right? You can see that if I just want to go for the AWS, so you can see, let it load, HashiCorp AWS, right? Here you can see HashiCorp, we have defined multiple thing. If I'll just simply go to the EC2, EC2 Elastic Compute Cloud, right? So here you can see that under resource we have many things, right? We can define our AMI, copy, instance, right? EC2 host you can define. It will gonna create your EC2 host, the instance type, availability zone. So we'll see all these things, right? Once we are familiar with the all these files, right? Because we have the project coming which we gonna create on AWS on this, right? So let's come back to our file. So this file we have created, right? So here you can see, uh, okay, it is not created, it's just initialized, right? So let me quickly create this file. Under demo, you will see that I don't have multi-file. So I'll just simply, and if you are well aware that, okay, my file is correct, I am not doing anything wrong, then you can pass this auto approve flag, which will not wait for your confirmation, rather it will create your directly your file, right? You can see that we have that new file created, right? Let me do one thing. Let me add one more thing here, right? I will gonna create let's say uh, random, let's say we will just create a random pet, right? So random pet is fine. Let me remove this. And let me remove this as well. I don't want the ID value to, like, keeper is something like if you don't want to keep it, change it, right? I will just name it my, let's say my favorite. Length is something like how many random string you want, right? Let's say I want two prefix, let's say I want to prefix master, and what is the separator between two strings, right? So I think we are good. Let me save it. Let me explain one more time. I'm using a random pet as a different plugin. This plugin is not there, guys. You can see it is not there. So once we need to initialize it, right? Then only it will come to know, okay, I need to use a different plugin, right? Let me expand a little bit. You can see we have only local. I'm saying, okay, this is the logical name of my resource. I want the two random string to be generated, the master, because for this output will not gonna save somewhere, right? It will just list, or it will show you that output in the this screen also, in this console only, right? So let me do tofu plan, right? Let's say what it will say. It is saying that inconsistency dependency log file. Why? The following dependency selection record in the log file are inconsistent with the current configuration, right? That is the use of that particular state file, right? Provider this OpenTofu HashiCorp random required by this configuration. Can you see? This is the beauty of this OpenTofu, guys. You can see it has already detected, okay, we are using a different random. This is our what? This is our declare state of our infra, right? But what is the desired state? Desired state is this one, right? That is why it is saying, okay, you don't have that particular thing, right? You cannot go beyond. You, what you need to do is, it is giving you a to update the locked dependency, right? Here you can see that this is the locked, right? Because it is using only the local one, right? So we need to update this lock so that it will allow us, okay, I apart from hashicop local, I need to use a hashicop random as well. So for that, what we need to do, we just need to tofu init dash upgrade. It will initialize your backend again, although it is saying finding latest version of hashicop random, and then it is saying the finding latest version of local. Local is already there, so it will not downloading, it will just simply install the random one. Here you can see, now if you expand this, right, you can see that one is the random and one is local. You have two directory now, right? And now if you say plan, so this will give you, okay, what it will do is, it will gonna create, right? Because there is no change in the previous state, it's simple, so it will just give you a create only, right? So you can see it will just want to add 0 to change, 0 to destroy. But let me just change here one dot, and now if you plan, so you can see now what it is saying is, I need to replace. Why? Because it is a different string. Now it is multiple provider, and now it is multiple providers dot, right? And you can see the summary here. It is saying is 2 to add, 1 to destroy, right? Because first it will gonna destroy and then it will gonna add. So let me quickly apply auto approve. So here you can see what it has done is, it has changed that file. If you go there, you can see that now we have the dot available, and here you can see as a result of the random, it has generated two random script. So you can see what it has done is, master, it is the prefix, then the separator is dot, and then two string random string will be generated, librer and lumer, right? If you run it again, so it will just do nothing, right? Because it is already changed. Thing is, because the desired state is matching to the declared state, right? That is why it is saying that 0 0 0 0, right? So that's what the guys, this multiple provider thing is, right? So let's not stretch this video more, because I just want to discuss this variable.tf. So probably we'll discuss in the next video, but as of now you're good, right? Like how we are doing all these things and everything, right? And I will gonna push this code to our GitHub so that you guys can clone it and follow along. And in the next video, we will see our variables, what variables is and how you can use it, right? So let me see, git status. Now you can see it is saying that you have two additional file, right? Because it is not tracking our this dot terraform random all. Why? Because we have mentioned in the git ignore file, right? So let me quickly add these two file, right? Git commit hyphen m, we need to give the message day 2 code, okay? And now I simply git push. So it will just take 1 minute to push the code, and once the code is there, you can simply go to our this one and just refresh the code, and you will see we have that second file is there, right? So you can simply clone it here, git clone, and just mention this URL, and you will have this code in your system. All right, guys. So I hope today's video was not boring. It was little bit descriptive, I would say. And yeah, so in next video we will gonna discuss our variables, like what variable is and how you can, because here you can see that we are hard coding our values, right? But we want a dynamic code in nature. So we'll see how the variables can be declared in the OpenTofu, what is the precedence of those, what all files we can declare, how we can pass the values, and everything we're gonna see in our next video. All right. So till then, I would take a leave from you guys and hope you like my content, right? So I would request to subscribe my channel, share it with other guys who want to explore or who want to get their hand dirty in our IAC, right? Like the infrastructure as a code, how you can manage your code and object with the tool called OpenTofu. All right. So that was the thing, and I will take a leave now. Thank you. Bye bye.